why is it that when you put the honey into the tea, you don't wind up actually tasting the honey until the tea is basically already gone? I feel like I'm doing something wrong, so please advise. Anyway, the Gen 7 Anything Goes game on the screen right now is not our feature presentation. We are waiting for this DPP game to start. I'm very excited because it's Laurel versus Twash, and Twash especially is known for running some really insane stuff. Like, you'll have like a favorite player, it's like, oh, they run pretty insane stuff, and then Twash shows up with like a drift blim. I'm not exaggerating, like actual drift blim. And yeah, you never know what's going to happen. Whenever Twash brings a more standard team, that's the surprise. Whereas Laurel, he uses all manner of stuff. Sometimes it's good, sometimes I personally don't think it's so good, but he's a good player, so I hope that he does not hold himself back by bringing something not so good. So, before the game starts, oh, there he is, he's on Smog Tours. I've been wondering about salamance in DPP recently, and I made a video on it 2 summers ago. And I've been thinking about it more lately. I think DPP is fine in terms of how much offense it has. I mean, some people complain about it, as is. But those people really shouldn't be taken seriously. But, yeah, the majority opinion is that DPP isn't offensive enough or aggressive enough, which I don't really agree with. Wow, look at that, Arceus just got destroyed. Oh, it's Steel Arceus, never mind. I was going to say, there's no way Mega Rayquaza can OHKO Arceus with a neutral V-Create. I don't care if it's banded. But actually, I mean, even still, it's pretty impressive. But anyway, a Gen 7 UU battle. I like this tier. But we don't see Mega Rayquazas very often, so I'm going to stick with this one. Anyway, the Delta Stream thing looks so... Or the Strong Winds, they look very cool. Anyway, so I've been thinking about Salamence because I think it would be, I think it would be too much. But I think in terms of Pokemon that would be too much, it would be one of the more bearable ones. Because I also think Zapdos and GSC is too much, for example. I think Mence and DPP is more unbearable than Zapdos and GSC. But I think they are of a similar breed, where you can play around them, you're expected to play around them, and it's reasonable to do so, relatively. And the thing with Mence is that it is not just strong, but it's got a great speed for how strong it is. Because Dragonite is similarly powerful. But Mence, it's got that speed tier, which is not just good for opposing offense. It's also really good because a lot of defensive teams, they will chuck a faster Pokemon, like specifically something like an offensive Rotom or an offensive Milotic. These are examples you don't see too much nowadays, but those would be something that could check a mixed Dragonite that would not be able to check a mixed Salamence as well. And in terms of more currently relevant examples, obviously everyone's favorite last Pokemon to tack on and act as an offensive check would be Jirachi. So you cannot use like physical Jirachi to check something like Salamence as easily because you've got to contend with that speed. And the fact that the physical Jirachis, the Iron Head, Body Slam, Fire Punch, that kind of stuff, that's not exactly threatening an OHKO on it. So, yeah, I think the way it would force the metagame to adapt to a more aggressive playstyle as overall would be interesting, if nothing else. Again, because I don't think it would be so devastating that it makes the metagame unplayable, and if it winds up being a negative, you just reverse it. Now the question is, of course, where do you test it? But we've had plenty of Salamence tournaments at this point, and we've seen it, and I don't think it's ever been particularly overwhelming. So I personally am not going to... I mean, hey, if a big movement comes together, if people really want it, I will throw my hat in the ring. But I would like to see it, and obviously there is a part of me that's biased because the Latios Salamence metagame was my first, and I would love to see the two there again. But even still, even with Salamence, I don't think that defense would be I don't believe that defense is too much now, or Paraspam, the two general most hated playstyles in DPP by your average player and those who play it alike. But even with Salamence, I don't think that it's going to be overwhelming. I mean, it's not like Salamence really threatens Clefable. I mean, obviously threatens Clefable, but it's not like it lethally threatens Clefable. Something like Dragonite at least has superpower. So, I don't know. I think it'd be cool to see. So now we're just waiting on this game and watching this Gen 7 UU stuff happen. Yeah, I have no... God, this is why I really, really wish for best of 3, because first of all, I am not just talking from a spectator point of view here, because I played the game for a very, very long time, and I always found myself wishing, I really wish I didn't have just, one game in this series, because it's, in this matchup, because I have way more teams that I could bring to 3 iterations of this tournament, and it's tougher to pick that way. And obviously, if something goes wrong in best of 1, it just goes wrong. And the arguments that, it's a team tournament, that it should, your teammate should... No, that shouldn't figure into it at all, because, well, your team tournaments, those individual matchups would all have a more competitive result with best of 1. And I'm not turning this video into my best of 1 soapbox. Or best of 3 soapbox, rather. But even because I'm excited to see what Laurel and Twash will bring. And the fact that we only get 1 game of the matchup is kind of what bothers me. Because especially if it's like a fast-paced game and it's over in 13 turns. Nothing wrong with that, of course, but it's like, that's it. Now, obviously, you can study 13-turn games a lot and learn a lot from them. But it would be more competitive and there would be more to get out of it. So I'm a big best of 3 fan. But, and you wouldn't think, from what I understand, I don't know anything about other games because I've always been just a Pokemon guy. But from what I understand, other games, and I know they're not the same as Pokemon. Oh, there's prep or whatever, which that's a whole basket of worms. Come on, guys, it's 8 minutes past the scheduled time. It's and you're both online now. It's 9 minutes. Let's get this thing going. I mean, I'm a rambler. I love rambling, but yeah. Yeah, best of 3. Good. Yeah, so it would be... I forget where I was. It's fine. This is just the preamble. It's like listening to the radio before your sports game starts. And, it's not really important what... who's the guy who does... Oh, well, okay, it's different if it is Joe Morgan doing Sunday Night Baseball, because you want to listen to him, because he used to be a player. But, like, the regular announcers, like, you just like the noise. Anyway, Metagross versus Rotom Wash lead. In a more exciting time, I would say, oh, cool, an offensive Rotom Wash lead. In this time, which is more focused on defense, then I would say, oh, Rotom Wash lead, stall. And the fact that it is slower than Metagross and then uses Will-O-Wisp on the second turn makes me think, yeah. So, in comes Latios, which scares Rotom out with the threat of Specs. I mean, theoretically, Rotom could withstand a Draco Meteor, but I don't know if you want to fall so far behind immediately. And there's the trick right off the bat, not fearing the Scarf T-Tar come in. A lot of these stall teams do not run Scarf Tar to punish Latios, and then it is bad. And now that Skarmory is scarfed, so it's going to be very difficult for it to maintain some hazards. I mean, it's got Rotom for spin blocking, but again, Starmie's got a big Hydro Pump. A very free one here, and Laurel wisely goes to Clefable because he's got a stall team. He's not running a more aggressive Spikes team that can't really withstand its hits, or Starmie's hits. So he goes to Clef, he'll get a knockoff off. I mean, Metagross will likely come in here. Well, with Rocks up, Metagross's Mash is actually quite threatening since, well, I don't know about quite threatening. Latias withstanding the burn is not bad, but it's probably going to Healing Wish. So let's organize everything here. We've got a pretty speedy Lum Metagross, because even 0-speed Rotom hits 208 speed, which Metagross needs quite a bit of investment to outrun. Oh, here comes T-Tar. He's going to try to pursue it. It gets knocked off. There goes a Shuka Berry. Shuka Berry most commonly on Dragon Dance, which I'm not ruling out here. But I was wondering why not Metagross, because Metagross is less valuable in this matchup. I guess if you want to kick the sand up, but that actually plays into Clefable's hands more than anything else, so far anyway. Teacher's going to scare it out, in comes Starmie, and on the Gliscor double. Nicely done. So are we going to spin the Spikes now? Because, I mean, you'll have to deal with Rocks, but at least it's better than dealing with Rocks and Spikes. And there's no way that Rotom should be coming in and eating Hydro with sand up. That's just a waste. When Clefable... he looks like he's got a pretty good grasp over Twash's team defensively. and there's no need to risk it over a spike that he doesn't really seem to need. So, yeah, Speedy, Lum, Metagross, Scarf, Latias, Starmie, T-Tar. If it's a DD Tar, then you're definitely going to need some other method of withstanding Draco Meteors. Ooh, Milotic. So that means the last is Scarf T-Tar, I assume. This is a team that was built by a couple people, including myself, in the World Cup of 2018. But yeah, I love seeing Milotic. I don't know why it came in there, though. That feels like a waste. I mean, Clefable's much better because at least if it spins, first of all, you're not threatened by anything, right? You've got that good defensive holdovers team. And if it spins, then you just pop rocks back up, so you are exerting some sort of pressure. Yes, you've got a good holdover Twash's team defensively, but that doesn't mean you want to be exerting no pressure at all, i.e. hazards. So yeah, Twash is going to have another steal, another way of handling, Dracos. And whether that's Jirachi or Bronzong or whatever. And then in the last slot, since the Latias is Scarf, then that could be a lot of things. That could be a Dragonite, for example. A Dragonite or a Gyarados. I think it's going to be one steal and one... This is the traditional structure, obviously. Whereas with Twash, anything goes. But traditionally, you're going to have another steal here of some sort. An offensive steal, of course. So that could be, Heatran as well. And then a flying-type big hitter. Because to help with a lot of things. But that would justify Starmie's presence the most. And these flying-type big hitters, the Gyarados and the Dragonites, these are the ones that you're supporting with these others so that you can give them the opportunity they need to break through teams like these. So I don't really see now with the sand up, you see that the Starmie does not have leftovers. And actually... No, I take it back. Laurel made a great move there because going to Clefable does not account for the possibility of specs early on. I guess, that actually makes that turn 5 Hydro Miss very nasty. That's really unfortunate because that Hydro did 27% to Milotic, and that makes it absolutely spec. So there's the Jirachi and the recovery there. So yeah, bad Hydro Miss early on, which is a shame about these kinds of teams. Best of 3. Anyway. So Rachi comes in also not showing lefties, so that doesn't really... I guess it rules out that this could be a sub-3 attack paralysis set, but I think it's more... But it still doesn't really say anything. It could be Calm Mind. I was going to say Calm Mind or mixed, but my expectation was some sort of mixed Iron Head thing. I mean, Calm Mind Iron Head could still be a thing, and matter of fact, I do think it's Calm Mind Iron Head. I hope my mental calc isn't too terrible, because that Surf doing 27%... At +1, that makes me feel like it's a minus special defense Jirachi, which would make sense if it is a Calm Mind Iron Head set, like a mix set. A set invented by legendary Dave himself, Stone Cold 22. And it's got a lot of variation. I mean, even Jirachi's variations have variations. It could be mixed, but what does that mean? Coverage-wise, item-wise, we know it's not leftovers, okay, but what else? Lum, Shuka, Akka, anything's possible. Custep. Okay, so it's not Latias. It is going to be... It's defensive Latias, but that makes something like Calm Mind Jirachi a lot more difficult to deal with. If this is Draco Meteor, then this... And I think it should be Draco Meteor specifically because when you got Super Rachi, you have to have a way of getting through defensive Latias. And, yep, there's Iron Head. Nice. I'm glad. Is it going to be Lum? It is Lum. I'm glad because... God, that Iron Head did nothing. With Lum, then you pose a threat to these defensive teams. And no flinch in 2 attempts and parrot, and now it's ruined. Yeah, I think with Super Rachi teams, then you need a way to get through bulky Latias, and that's either Draco Meteor or Pursuit Tar, or some sort of lure like Heatran, but we don't see either of these. So now he's going to try and parrot it with T-Bolt, which, in fairness, look, the great thing about Super Rachi is that if it's not... If it's not an EQ Latias or a Roar Latias, then Rachi can stay in and stick it. I've had this scenario a bunch of times. It can stand and kind of stick it out and just batter away at it. I mean, that Psychic did roughly 30%. That is significant. And again, this is why I like Scarf T-Tar on these teams. Not just because of the speed and the actual power, because nothing on his team actually does damage. And that is kind of helpful when dealing with wall breakers like this, or if the last slot is like a mixed Dragonite. Latias, yes, but this Latias is also slow if it's getting outsped by that. Oh, here comes Clefable, getting I guess it's hoping for the full para now, which is, a good move. Because Latios was just going to give it more Calm Minds. That Dragon Pulse did a grand total of 9. So the Serene Grace T-Bolt para helping out. Still not going to be pleasant, but there was no reason to Iron Head there because Psychic is actually out-damaging Iron Head against the Latios, which is fantastic. So yeah, good call with the Lumberry here. And what's really nice is that this isn't even the Super Rachi's only shot at it. So Twash is supporting it with Latios, which I love, because it means that... Oh, there's a full para. Yeah. Well, it doesn't mean he has to sacrifice it, though. That means that he's going to Healing Wish to it later, or he can Healing Wish to it later, or the DD Tar, or whatever it is. He's going to get 2 KO by Seismic down, another full para. So Laurel's really getting a lot of luck here. And he can get another shot at it. He won't have Lum, but the Latios is para'd now, which is huge in that it will have much worse odds against the Iron Head. So, beautiful. I'm not sure why Rotom didn't come in there, honestly. I mean, great switch by Twash to not just mash into Rotom and then have to switch into it. But I think Rotom is better because Rotom can still survive a Specs Hydro. And obviously, if it gets boomed, then Skarmory actually takes heavy damage and Rotom does nothing. I guess he wouldn't expect it to boom, but even if the Skarmory does switch into the mash, the Skarmory is scarfed, and that is much more exploitable. Whether Metagross is going to boom after, or whether he's going to try to take advantage of the lock with, if he's just going to keep mashing because he expects Whirlwind. So here comes another... Oh, here comes a Thunderbolt aiming for the Milotic. I don't know, I think you could have unleashed your specs there. Because you either catch Milo or you catch Latios. Either's fine. But T-bolting into Latios... Well, here comes T-Tar. So, the Shuka makes me think... But, I mean, the fact that it is paired with T-Tar like this and doesn't have Draco Meter makes me think it could very well be Pursuit. And that would really, really help against teams like this because Super Rachi poses such a threat. And you just have to have that way of... Because Latios is fairly ruthless otherwise. I mean, depending on the set, if it's EQ, obviously. Nope, he gets out of there. Is it going to be DD? No, he goes right for Crunch. That doesn't necessarily say that it's DD. But, yeah, Iron Head is a great move on offensive Calm Mind Jirachi in general because you've got as Gliscor just roosts, and I guess the T-Tar is not DD Ice Punch because that would have been the perfect turn to DD Ice Punch. Draco, wow, that is especially defensive Gliscor. That does nothing at all. Cool set. And it's going to be the Rocker. Okay, so the Clef probably has Encore last to help deal with various Calm Minders. But yeah, Iron Head is a great move on Super Rachi because it helps chip opposing Pokemon. Because you'll only need one, right? Like when an opposing Pokemon, like a Swampert or something. Or actually, Swampert's a bad example because it resists Iron Head. Let me think of something like Suicune, let's say. Because you're at low health with Jirachi, and the Suicune is just out of range of +1 T-Bolt, because generally the coverage is Psychic T-Bolt, Iron Head, which it is here. And there's the trick. There you go. So does this Starmie even have Rapid Spin? Because if so, now I think is the time to use it. The Latios is hindered, and... Oh, no, good move going to... Oh, now some return luck. But yeah, Iron Head can chunk that, whatever it is... into range of your +1 attack. And obviously it's good against T-Tar. But it's used over Grass Knot, which also hits T-Tar really hard, and also I'm a big fan of because crushing a Powdon is amazing in Swampert. Yeah, he's just going to try to Hydro his way through this Clef. He's only got 5 left, though. Accuracy willing. And still frozen. I think you got to go to Milo. Nope, he hits another one, so getting some return luck. I don't know, Yeah, Milo... Because Milo takes nothing from Lefty Starmie T-Bolt. But yeah, the reason you use Iron Head over Grass Knot is to get that extra chip for the +1 attack. Anyway. So... Yeah, 3 attacks trick. You don't see that set very often. Okay, so that makes me think... I mean, knowing Twash, this is not a hard and fast rule, but without Trick in the last slot, or sorry, without Rapid Spin, which I prefer on Spec Starmie, but that's me. I know some other players, like August, is not a fan. Then I think it's less likely that last slot is a Gyarados. I mean, triple setup, sure, very possible, especially with Healing Wish, but I think it leans the dice slightly more towards the last slot being something like a mixed Flygon, for example. Which would go very well with this dual trick assault, because when you got Metagross, this is not an this variant of Metagross, it is not an anti-stall Pokemon. Or like a DD Tar Super Hachi, threatening, sure, but you can't just do the dual trick thing. And even when you have the wall breaking power of Specs Hydro and all the chaos that can bring up in the opponent scrambling to deal with it because they don't really have good options, then you're still going to need something good in that last slot. So rather than going for another setup which could get thwarted by Scarm, Quag, Bulky Latios, whatever it is, Milotic, then I think it's because that does nothing. So then I think it's likelier that it's going to be some sort of mixed Pokemon. If it is a Dragonite, I think it's likelier to be mixed than DD, for example. And if it is a Gyarados, I think it's somewhat likelier to be choice banned, because when you have that Rocks weakness. And you're trying to set up with it, if it's not hyper offense, obviously, but this is not hyper offense. So when you have that Rocks weakness, you don't want to need to take a turn to be threatening. You want to be threatening as in as short a time period as possible. So with Band, you have that immediate big waterfall and obviously associated coverage moves. So Milo's been worn down, but it's still not a bad situation at all. I mean, Latios does not KO it, is the thing. Draco Meteor does not KO. Even Thunderbolt is not going to KO. And yes, Scarf Latios runs T-Bolt, but for the love of God, use the calc. If I'm wrong on this, then I don't know. No, there's no way that Milotic. I mean, I know, yes, Starmie does 38 from 299 special attack, and from 319 special attack, that's not going to jump all the way up to 50 or 49 point whatever it is, because I know Showdown shows you the higher percentage. But I don't know what else the Latias is going to do. I mean, Metagross threatens Boom, obviously. So that last makes me think... I think it's way likelier that it's Gyarados or Flygon now, as opposed to Dragonite. Oh, well, I guess Gliscor's a fairly safe thing to do, but why not recover? I mean, okay, he's still in a pretty good position overall. The DD Tar is scary, with the Skarmory being Scarfed. That's the biggest thing. And he's used his Healing Wish on the Jirachi, which is really big. But this is a specially defensive Gliscor. Iron Head's not going to do much because it's uninvested, and Psychic isn't going to do much. He's going to eat an EQ, so I mean, I get it. You can't, Healing Wish to your T-Tar and then switch out to something else. So it's going to be in the hands of Jirachi now. But I think that Milotic really, really should have recovered. I don't know. Let me see if I can pull up the calc. But yeah, the move for Twash here, I think, is you just got to Iron. Well, no, of course you have to, or you sack the Metagross, okay. And now we're going to see what that last is. Because, I mean, even T-Tar lives in EQ after Hazard's. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. Ah, okay. Alright, well, with Clefable down and Milotic weakened, then yes, this is doable for Empoleon. Question is, what is that Gliscor set? Do you, for instance, taunt it to prevent the agility? Does it even need to agility, honestly? Don't you just attack? I think you do, yeah. Okay, yeah, thank God I'm not crazy. Max special attack Latios against 0 special defense Milotic is going to do 38.6 to 45.8. So there was no reason not to recover there. There's the Ice Beam. Does it have Grass Knot? If it's Subpataya, I kind of feel like it is Subpataya simply because you need that extra charge from Torrent and Pataya because you're trying to break through bulky stuff with this. This team is not going to naturally fear offense. Alright, so now we've got this kind of thing going on where Empoleon is not immediately threatened by Milotic, not by a long shot. Oh, no, wait, why Jirachi? You just gotta... I guess he gets it in on another recover and threatens. I was going to say, you try to freeze the Milotic and then make something happen, but now Jirachi got the free Calm Mind it was looking for. So now it's a matter of... But I don't think it's going to be enough unless it gets a million flinches because that... Okay, I suppose I... Yeah, but it's not going to be enough for Rotom either. I mean, okay, here's where Ironhead pops in. Latios can still do something, but I think here you sacrifice Skarmory. Okay, you know what? I definitely overestimated Spadef Gliscor. Or actually, you know what? That was nicely done by Twash because he must have done the calc and said, okay, with rocks, then the Gliscor will be 2 KO'd. But from full, it's not, and I'm not thinking, was there a reason not to roost? There's no way Twash ever Calm Minds there. If you roost, you're out of 2 KO range, and the threat is neutralized, and you're probably fine. I guess he might also go for the late game DD Tar Sweep once it's the last Pokemon and can't be phased by Skarmory anymore. That would be interesting. And yeah, but since Milotic is healthy again, then I'm not sure. Alright, so he sacrifices the Gliscor, and now he's going to go to Rotom, which is not needed for the others. Okay. Yeah, I guess recovering with Milotic. Going to Gliscor meant Jirachi didn't Calm Mind there, which is fair, but it was going to get that Calm Mind at some point anyway. So, I don't know, it felt like it was better to just... Okay, I don't know if this one really made much of a difference because the Milo wound up getting its recover off, but... Yeah, now I guess he's just calcing how many Iron Heads this thing's going to need to knock it into +1 Psychic range, which is, you know, a lot. I guess forcing Jirachi to switch out and then come back in also did make it take some hazards damage, so the Earthquake knocked it closer into KO range for the others, which, okay, fair. I wonder if there's no way the Scarf Skarmory is fast enough to outrun Rachi with the +1. That would be really funny, though, if it just came in and Brave Birded. But I really doubt that is the case. Yeah, so in that sense, okay, I think the Milo staying in there was fine. Actually, no, Milotic has Haze, too. So it's not like the Jirachi was completely free for it. I don't know. Well, Milotic should have Haze anyway. It's one of its most important moves. But maybe Haze was decided to be redundant alongside Encore Clefable. But yeah, that's very possible, I suppose. But either way, assuming it does have Haze, then... Anyway, I'm getting hung up on that, which is not really important. As that we can tell anyways, Twash's second timer down to 10 seconds. Ironhead, flinch. Okay, it's doing more than I expected with the... It's doing more than I expected to a very bulky Rotom, which makes me think that maybe the Rotom is more specially defensive, which would mean it's, you know, taking more from Ironhead, but it would take +1 Psychic better, and from that it dodges the second flinch. So this Jirachi has not been doing Jirachi things very effectively. And the thing is, does the T-Tar have to pray for a dodge here? I kind of think it does. Oh, he just goes right to Skarm. Nice move. That was a really nice move from Laurel. Oh, it's not... Okay, either it's all-out Mixtar, which, you know, cool choice, or it's DD Fire Blast, which also cool choice, but that was very nicely done. So now Milotic is in one-on-one against the T-Tar. Surf's not going to KO, but it doesn't matter, because it's not like the T-Tar's going to get past it, barring Crunch, Crit, and Defense Drop. Now, that would be gruesome, but, you know... Okay, one more turn to crit. Actually, the Empoleon is now one nice move. I guess he was gonna, if the DD went off. I think he might have shut off from the possibility of DD because of the Fire Blast. But which is, you know, very fair, I suppose. But yeah, he's gonna crunch. Now he's out of. Now he just needs a freeze. In fairness, he does have several opportunities for that freeze. Well, he doesn't just have to freeze. He has to freeze and then KO the Milotic before it thaws out. So the odds are not wonderful. There's a crit Surf, which brings the timer closer. Oh, and there's another crit. There's the Pitaya. Well, if the freeze is going to matter, or going to help out, then freeze here, and then you're actually going to do stuff. But no, nothing happened. So, That was an interesting one. Uh, yeah, I have many thoughts. I'm The team is definitely decent. I feel like Milotic and Latios kind of step on each other's toes. I think some speed definitely helps, but they are very good defensively, and it's a good call into Twash's very aggressive play style. It worked out. There's a lot of luck in this one. I'm not going to say it swung things one way or another, but that early Specs Hydro miss on the Clef, that's a really nasty one. And I know it got the freeze later on, and then it KO'd it. But yeah, that would have made a big difference, I think. Then, I mean, I'm not going to shed any tears over Jirachi not flinching Latios. That's something else. But, yeah, especially because it then got the T-Bolt pair and everything. But, yeah, that was, the Specs Hydro miss was the biggest thing. I think, yeah, it goes to show just how crucial the early game is, not just because of the luck, but also, like, when the Starmie thunderbolted into the Latios, I think that was a setback that could have been avoided potentially. Anyway, that is that. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one.